with it.
Огонь по готовности! Огонь по готовности!
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Watchpoint Post Show. We're coming at you live from the Blizzard Arena, and what an insane day to close out Week 3 of Stage 3. It's Puckett at the desk, and I've got some special guests. A very excited Monte Cristo. We've got Doa, the caster cursor, in the best way possible.
I am the caster curse guy.
And Josh, the man I claimed was ridiculous last night for saying that Valiant even had a chance. Josh, you look like the smartest guy since Bren when he said that the Outlaws weren't going to win a single match in all of Stage 2.
Well, guessing is the same as thinking. So Bren tends to guess. I was applying critical thought.
You've been listening.
I have.
Hey,
Wisdom.
I put them at 5% higher chance of winning the
That's
Valiant
true.
than Josh
That's true.
did.
I had less faith than Monty.
I mean,
Just bet $1, man. I should have went Wheel of Fortune on that one.
Now, on the pre-show, you guys said that if you played 3 times against the Vancouver Titans, you were going to win 1 if you were the Valiant. If they play the rematch tomorrow, does those odds go up after watching today's game?
I think the reason that we had the odds lower was because we didn't know. I mean, after having watched the Valiant there, I feel like that's a reproducible kind of performance.
Yes.
I think they just had a great read on the
sure.
Titans, and the Titans failed to adapt throughout the series, especially in terms of their Sombra gameplay. I think the Titans have got real issues here.
Monty, I know you got a lot of good points, but let's just jump into the games here. For Game 3 is where we picked things up. It was 1-1 in the half after Valiant took Paris. So, Monty, talk me through what was going right for the Valiant in the second half. How did this work in their favor?
I mean, first off, they scored what was an extremely fast attack run on Eichenwald, but I think Sideshow's right. As he's talking about, they did have a good read. It was the little things. You could tell that they were studying film. Shax had been watching where So Min-Soo placed his translocators and was destroying them at certain points in this series, especially on that last map of Dorado. But it was also the playing around the EMP and their ultimates that was going so well. They were playing aggressively. So Min-Soo, we had talked about this before. We've talked about this many times this season. The Titans, or this stage rather, the Titans look worse when they're not playing the 3-3 with the Reinhardt, when they're forced to play the Sombra instead. Shax forces them to play play the Sombra into that because they can swap over to multi-DPS looks.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, I think the Vancouver Titans probably should have stuck with more traditional 3-3 compositions once they realized that it wasn't working out. But I think the Titans still think that they can play Sombra Goats to the same level as some of these other teams. I think they're just so used to winning that they think they can. But the Valiant have just shown them here that they are miles behind the meta in terms of understanding this comp.
Well, they seem to always have the ability to make the Titans use their ults first, right? I mean, it always seemed like Valiant had the second sound barrier, the second EMP, like they were able to bait all that stuff out so well. We saw in Dorado too, like you mentioned, where Shax knew where the translocator was that So Min-Soo was going to use, so very well studied. Bring out the Shax food.
By the way, Shax is a player I don't think I ever heard his name before last week outside of that Florida Mayhem trade. So talk to me a little bit about this new player. Is this a face that needs to be on everyone's radar? Are we going to see this guy over and over again?
I think so. I think with this composition, the LA Valiant are looking a lot better. And Shax used to be known as a Tracer player when he played inside Europe, then moved to Mayhem Academy. He was playing a bunch of Zarya. Now, Mayhem Academy actually ended a win streak themselves. Fact Fiction, a new coach that they just brought on, and Shax Shaxx ended the 30-match win streak of the Fusion University, the most dominant team in Contenders. They come in here and they break this streak as well. It's like Fact Fiction and Shaxx are like the security guards that tackle slippery, oiled-up streakers that run around sports matches. And they just wrestle them to the ground. You're not streaking on my watch.
I love it.
Photoshop it.
Speaking of streaks here, guys, we got to talk about the the Vancouver Titan streak, because this is ridiculous. It breaks all of the records that we've had in the past. Here are the longest match win streaks in Overwatch League history. It started with the Valiant, their 9 streak back in Stage 4 when they were the Stage 4 champions of 2018. Excelsior, they had 10. We had 12 from Excelsior earlier as well, and then the Uprising dropping 14. But that 19, will we ever see a team beat that number? I know it's only year 2 of the Overwatch League.
It's 2 completely unbeaten stages. So I think it's going to be really tough for any team to recreate that. I mean, that's just 2 stages alone, going without a single loss. That's really hard to recreate for anybody.
And you've got to imagine that in the future, probably we'll have more ups and downs in terms of the meta and patches. It seemed like a bit of a rarity this year that we had almost 3 stages of the Titans playing the best compositions they possibly could. So now that it starts moving away, this is where the Titans have to adapt, and that's where the variability is introduced in their gameplay.
We'll find out in 2020. For now, we do know what our match of the week was, and that was the rematch that I was personally super pumped for. When we watched Chengdu Hunters face off against the Dallas Fuel last week, it was a great match. Jinmu was showcasing his skills on the Pharah. Dallas, this time around, plugging in some new players. Trill coming over from Australia. He gets the starting position on main tank in position instead of OG. And also, we see Unko on the bench in favor of some new blood, Harry Hook. I guess old blood, but new face on the stage here for 2019. But let's talk about this Dallas team, because they weren't able to get it done, and the Hunters rolled over them.
This is so frustrating. I mean, like, Dallas Fuel, I was hoping they would show a little bit more, you know, than we saw in the first match between these 2 teams. But the tank woes really are at the center of it, I think. If they continue. I thought maybe that No was starting to unlock a little bit of potential that OG hadn't really been able to show before. But now that he's on the bench, now that we've got Trill in there, Trill still kind of figuring things out with the team. It's looking grim for the Dallas Fuel going forward.
It's really difficult for Dallas as well to pick up any wins in Stage 4. So the fact that they lost this is devastating for them in the overall record. And it's teams like the Valiant that'll be gunning for the Dallas Fuel spot. It seems ridiculous to say at this point, but we've talked about the Houston Outlaws. Okay, they had their own stuff going on today. And then there's also the Valiant, but these are the teams that might start catching up to the middle of the pack teams like Dallas right now, who are no longer positive and look to be trending downwards over the course of the rest of the season.
Monty, this is a hot 4-0 for the Hunters. Should we take this as a sign that the Hunters are improving, or where do you currently rank this team right now? Are they a contender?
I mean, I don't even really want to talk about this game with the Florida and the Valiant upsets, but
Game of the week.
but the game of the week, Monty.
You have to. We have
game
Axe
of the
Monty.
week.
We're in Act 1 right now. You're
I
a
will
theater
say-
major.
How dare you say that about the game of the week?
I will say that I don't really think this is indicative of what the Hunters are capable of, because we did see Harry Hook put in at short notice. We did see Trill in his 2nd match ever on stage. So I'm not reading into this too much. But Chengdu, they're still an outside shot, of course, to make the season playoffs. And, you know, they are coming online to the right time. They did go 7-1 overall in their 2 matches against the Dallas Fuel, which helps a lot with that map differential.
The hot 4-0 definitely is going to help out the map count for the Chengdu Hunters. And for Dallas, this is the first time since week 2 of Stage 1. Yeah, February 23rd since they fall below 500. Pretty rough spot here for the Fuel, at 500. -9 in map count. You see the Hunters are still behind them in 11th at -9. Still a lot of games to go, but the schedule is not looking good for Dallas going into Stage 4. Coming up, Boston will try to rekindle the reverse sweep magic, and we'll break down exactly what happened in that matchup you've been dreaming of, Monty. Florida versus Houston. It's coming up on the Watchpoint Post Show. Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Come. Stand behind. Play point.
I have rally soon, guys. I have rally soon. Calm down, okay? I'm rallying. Kill baby. Push baby, guys. Push baby.
Baby dead.
Everyone, Lucio. Good job.
Alright. Good.
Insane, dude. Holy.
Good. Blase.
Let's go, Jeff.
Your calls. Good.
Blase taking charge of the comms there for the Boston Uprising when they matched up against the Paris Eternal today. If you watched the first half of this game, though, you thought it might be a 4-0 for the European squad. Didn't turn out that way.
No, it certainly didn't. I mean, the backwards janitors, the Boston Uprising, doing it again with the reverse sweep. But, you know, Hex and I were talking to RCK the other day, and he was telling us that they really are trying to put more of their shot calling onto Blase. And you can tell from that clip right there, even Fusion's giving him some props for the shot calling at the end of that match.
And to be able to take over more of the shot calling and emotional leadership and still put up huge performances in map 3, 4, and 5, Blase was on fire today, particularly when he's been able to move over to that trademark Doomfist. And also the fire as well. We criticized Boston Uprising at the beginning with their roster building for taking what are ostensibly 2 projectile players in Color Hex and Blase.
Right.
Hasn't made that much difference this season because they've mostly been on Zarya and Brig anyway, so who cares? But whenever they get to play those roles, it was incredibly strong. And Eichenwald, Blase was just on fire.
Blase's Doomfist has been one of my favorite things to watch here in Stage 3, and today he finally gets the win with it. But when you looked at the team in general, where was Boston improving? Because this is a team that was on a 6-match slide.
I think it comes down to their coordination with being able to use the triple DPS. I think that was the majority of it. They sowed a bit of carnage in the ranks of Paris, and Paris really struggled to deal with it. The ult economy got thrown out the window for Paris a little bit, and when they have to deal with the Doomfist at the same time as the Pharaoh, or like this composition, where they have 3 different damage dealers from the Boston Uprising playing around, it becomes really difficult for Paris to coordinate.
Are we just going to pretend that Aim God wasn't back in today? Like, I feel like that has to be mentioned.
I mean, he had, you know, some good individual moments, but I think the real key to this was at halftime when I said the magic was gone and Boston wasn't going to be able to reverse sweep. I think that was the moment the magic actually returned. So
Right.
you're welcome. You're welcome, Boston.
You're welcome, Boston. You're welcome, Valiant. You're welcome, everyone doing about it.
Noah's here to cast or curse all the good teams.
It worked out really well for our underdogs today. It went to that map 5 at the end of this one. Do you feel that Boston is back in contending shape, or is this just a one-off against Paris?
I'm not really sure.
Maybe.
I mean, Paris is a lower towards the bottom of the table, and I'm not sure that Boston would be able to do this to most teams. But Boston Uprising, you know, they got it done today.
Round one, relax, and we win. Guys, we win the game. Relax, guys. Relax, we win the game.
Love to see it. So much emotion from the whole team. Blase calling them to the end, and here is a look at the final box score. You can see 16 final blows as Doomfist. Color Hex, I love to see his Hanzo. Also got a chance to see some fire from him as well. At the end, a very frustrated Paris. As exciting as it was for Boston, Paris had a tough time. But here's a look at some of the tweets immediately after the game. GG's Paris Eternal from Blase. What an intense game. Fusion's robbed my MVP. Seemed the rest of the team agreed, guys.
I actually do think he was robbed.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
I think to put forward Wolf's points, though, there were a number of times on Eichenwald and then on Dorado as well, where Fusions came up clutch with some big individual plays. And I think Wolf's argument was Blase wouldn't have even been in position to make kind of the plays that wrapped up the series had Fusions not put them in that position as well. And also, you can never really know what's going on inside the comms. He didn't have the insight to know that Blase had taken over a bunch of the leadership.
Come
Yeah,
on,
fair enough,
Wolf.
fair enough.
Why don't you listen to the Boston comms while commentating?
That wouldn't be distracting at all. Yeah, let's get both teams' comms pumped in there too. Yeah.
Well, we saw the elation from the Boston Uprising, but here's what was happening on the other side of the stage. It's Cruz's reaction. And you could just see the frustration. Headset comes off at first. Just thinking through what was going down at the end of that game 5, and that's the reaction that you know all of the players were feeling. Not the first time we've seen some equipment go, but Cruz is definitely going to need a new mouse after that one.
The gentle handshake afterwards. I appreciate that though.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what
around.
Fusions showed a couple of matches ago, where everything seems to be going well, and then it turns around, and Cruz tweeted after the match as well and said, it's incredible that these mistakes that we were making in stage 1 and 2 have crept back into our performance. But what I love about both Fusions and Cruz is they have the attitude to be able to be emotional up on the stage and then come straight back into scrims or straight back just immediately after the match and focus on the next game. Both fairly level-headed when you speak to them afterwards.
Congratulations to Boston for the win today. They're back in the running once again, and so is another team, not necessarily for the season playoffs, but maybe the win column. It was the Mayhem facing off against the Outlaws, a team that everyone's been hyping up here in Stage 3. The Outlaws have been looking so good behind the Sombra from Dante, but somehow, boys, there was a spoiler on the other side of the stage.
I mean, I do think this was somewhat of a trap game, right, for the Outlaws coming in. And you can say what you like about the Outlaws losing this, but they're still overwhelmingly likely to go 5-2 this stage and to make the stage playoffs. So I think this is a blip that they're going to learn from.
Oh, I don't know about that, though, because their overall season was on such a fine balance. If they were going to make it back into that 12th spot, they needed every single win they could. And to drop onto the Florida Mayhem, I think speaks to their the variance in their level. If they continue to have dips like this, they are going to lose to other teams and they are going to miss out on that spot.
The thing that just kind of blows my mind with this series was just how much we saw the Florida players step up on an individual level in this series. Saya player had a fantastic game. Fate, I think, played really, really well as well. And then you got Zephyr, like, literally clutching out the series on Gibraltar. Like, when's the last time we said Zephyr, the clutch player?
Well, everybody on Twitter was saying he was cashing in his scrum bucks. And
Really? No kidding. Yeah.
He got a good exchange rate.
It's true, yeah, the best.
Did he get a good exchange rate? I feel like he's been banking scrim bucks for like 3 years going back to Team Liquid. I feel like winning one match against the Houston Outlaws in one clutch moment is probably the worst scrim bucks exchange rate of all time.
At least he's cashing them in, man. He's not just keeping them
This
to
is just
himself.
the beginning. This is just the beginning. Zephyr's going to turn into an absolute freak beast at the end of the season.
Now, I thought Mayhem were going to win it on that second point. Instead, it's going to be the Outlaws challenging all the way to the third, but Zephyr's Bastion causing problems as it's going to be Florida taking the series 3-1. But Josh, I want to take a moment and revisit the final moments of this game because it got pretty chaotic there towards the end.
It got insanely chaotic. So bear with me here as I break down the final fight of what happened on Gibraltar. It's insanely chaotic, but I'm going to try and do my best to break it down. So here's a couple of things to pay attention to. Coming into this final point, there are 20 seconds left on the clock, and all of the momentum is in favor of Houston Outlaws. They also have the EMP Shatter combo, which has been fantastic for Houston. So Muma is going to look for this Shatter that kind of goes alongside here and picks up Fate, maybe Saya player if they can force him out of the corner, and whichever players they can get. But as you roll it forwards, you see that Muma takes kind of a shallow angle here. Instead of being able to swing out wide and get an angle out there, he's actually very close to this corner, so he can only pick up Fate or the guys that are spawning as Dante comes in. This is the kind of chaotic stuff that tends to happen to Houston Outlaws, where they fail in clutch moments, which is one of the reasons why they've had such an issue picking up map 5s, I think. Now, as the chaos continues, yeah, they managed to pick up the kills on Fate, but look at the important people to kill here. I mean, BQB is the majority of their damage. They really need to be able to focus him down. He basically doesn't get touched the entire team fight. Another incredibly important person to kill is Chris, who comes off the respawn to get a sound barrier later on. But the focus fire is kind of all over the place. And another player that I really want to touch on is Jake, because Jake's positioning has been a key thing on Brigitte the entire season. And he's often in this final team fight a little too far away from the rest of his team. You see here, he goes very weak, has to get back to the rest of his team, uses that bubble, kind of a waste, and the focus fire all over the place from the Houston Outlaws. Here we see again, it's BQB has been able to use his grab, and Chris comes out to use his sound barrier. And again here, it's Jake. Let me wind it back a little bit here, because it's Jake who's a little bit out of position, takes a Bionade and gets lasered down by BQB, who is still alive in the fight on high charge. That can't be allowed to happen. And of course, Zephyr on Bastion at the end, who is just literally raining in damage from this kind of direction, just clutches it towards the end. But if they had played this tighter and been more thoughtful about their positioning, Outlaws should have been able to get this.
I mean, my favorite thing is that Zephyr got D-maxed and then went in mini diva form into spawn to switch to Bastion, realizing...
That's such a heads-up play.
Exactly, right? So he used his mech to the maximum and then came back.
Well, it's so smart because, like, when you demech that diva, you kind of put diva out of your mind. You're like, well, yeah, he'll die eventually, and then he'll be respawning and all that. But you don't expect the guy to jump back into spawn. And that's, you know, Gibraltar, the final point, is one of the only places you can really do that in Overwatch, is go and then make it back in time to make a play like that.
And one of the biggest reasons that they were even in that position with the time bank is because they messed up their point B offense. And again, that was terrible positioning. For the Houston Outlaws, I think it all comes down to discipline. That's the next step to making themselves a really solid team like the LA Valiant. They've got the meta, they understand it, they've got the Sombra player. Dante was fantastic on that map and the whole series, but their positioning of guys like Raucus and Jake is a little bit too spread out and makes them too easy to pick, even against teams like the Mayhem.
Definitely an entertaining match and a big win for the Mayhem, who we've been mentioning are going through changes. Today, they use some of the old faces and get their second win of the season. Today, we saw quite a few teams that hope to make their way to the Wells Fargo Center in Philly for the 2019 Overwatch League Grand Finals, and you can be there, so watch them all. So simply head on over to overwatchleague.com, pick up your tickets before they're gone. We'll be back in just a minute to break down the best moments of the day, including the most over-the-top moments here on the Watchpoint Post Show.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
It's time for my favorite time of the day. It's over the top moments, kicking things off at number 5. Let's take a look back at Bombs Away. Elsa, where's this one going? In the hole? Yeah. 4-banger.
That's brutal.
How many?
4.
How many, Janu? Is that 4 more?
Oh, boy.
It was a day of
Select them all.
really drawing it out there, man.
Loving it.
Suspense built like crazy with that clip.
I was shivering with anticipation.
Thank goodness Sia player gets out of brick jail and they
Sia's
let
pride.
the man play with the sniper rifle again. One of my favorite parts of 2018. He's back on the Widowmaker again in stage 3.
This was so good. Escape. This clutched Hollywood for them and set them off on that whole run where they defeated the Outlaws.
That's what set up the game-winning moment here at number 3. It's the return of the reverse sweep, the 4th reverse sweep of the season for Boston. They get it done against the Paris Eternal in Game 5.
They were always amazing at Game 5s, even last year, but not reverse sweeps. This is just nuts.
I mean, if you're going to be good at a Game 5, like a reverse sweep Game 5 is the best Game 5 to be good at. So
true.
I think that's an improvement on the Boston side.
Number 2, it's the Florida final stand. Zephyr, you made the top 5 for a good point here for Florida. First time I remember doing that
the
from this
clutch
stage.
player.
Why you gotta roast
that
him
sink
even
in.
when he's doing well?
Yeah.
Good dude. He's playing
doesn't
for his
erase
spot
history,
in
I'm
the
like an
God,
elephant,
right?
Josh. I have such a great memory. I'm never going to forget the other 17
Me
attempts.
too.
There we go. Let's take a look at your number 1, and I can't do math anyway. Ignore that. Valiant,
This is one.
what did you do? You stopped the greatest streak in Overwatch League history. 19 is the final number for the Vancouver Titans as Valiant stop them on Dorado.
Strong 0% chance.
Strongest 0% chance of winning
They have
ever.
the best 0% chance of any team. I'll give them that.
I love
a
it.
phenomenal performance from Kariva and Shax today, but honestly, by the whole team, they're looking so good.
Honestly, that Fate trade may be the greatest trade we have seen in Overwatch history as well.
I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves there, Bucket. But it did end up working out really well for them. And I think it is a credit to their new coach, Packing 10, because he was the one who was putting Shax in at, this early, taking out Space, a player that we consider one of the top divas in this league. That's a bold move.
Very.
That's a bold move,
Shax
and it paid
crushed
off.
Josh, I know you've been thinking about this. What is a better trade than what the Valiant got for Fate?
Well, we haven't really seen many trades in Overwatch League, but maybe the Custer Unco trade, which initially put Custer onto the LA Valiant and they got second place last year.
That could be.
Maybe.
We'll argue
right.
it on next week. For now, we need to go over our Twitch cheer bits leaderboard.
Atlanta's
Doa, do the
killing
honors
it.
for the teams.
All right, well, Atlanta number 1, Hongjo Spark number 2, NYXL number 3. Outlaws, I feel like they're creeping up there, but we have no up and down thing to really tell, do we? So I don't know.
Look
Maybe
how
the
close
Titans
they are.
stock
They're,
take a bit
like
of hit.
they're like 120 away from beating
I feel like Soul just
from the
gets
fuel right now.
frustration.
Monty,
points
do
at
us
this
the
point.
honors here backwards.
backwards. Cham0081. Welcome to the top
Chamobi,
55
obviously.
Marshmallows. Hastro, repping his team. At least somebody's showing up today. Good job, Hastro.
Oh, man.
Unnecessary.
Oh,
Unnecessary.
bring on the tweets.
He's an owner,
Bring 'em on.
Monty. You can't go at the owners. They pay our bills.
Whatever. I sold him a League of Legends team. It's fine.
All right, it's all
all
fair.
right, there
It's
you
all
go.
fair. There you have it. Those are our
Spurred
Twitch
no
cheer
respect.
bits leaders for the day. And remember, guys, speaking of Twitch.tv, get your all access pass. We're only in stage 3, and we got a whole nother stage to go, including special content like a Q&A with BQB. Yes, that BQB who won that game 4. He's from the Florida Mayhem, and you get a chance to ask him questions exclusively on Twitch.tv. We'll be back after the break to take a quick look at what we learned this week, so don't go anywhere. Hindsight's coming up next on the Watchpoint Post Show.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Overwatch League fans. Catch your league on America's network, T-Mobile.
Here at Evoltol with a 3K, takes out Closer, turns around with a blaster. Goodbye, Zachary to the melee. And why not another DPS to add to his collection with AK?
See the Valiant just trying to retreat indoors to stay away from all this pressure that Hotba is applying.
Papa has the barrage, and he goes for it!
And triple kill instantly, make it 5 really as Space is taken out of that mech board. Already very close. Now he has that Graviton Surge. They're getting a grab first, so Spark getting aggressive here. Can they get the kills out of it? No. Grab gets used by Corey as well. Sans himself to Spark. He gets 3. Amazing move comes in from Justice Arc, setting it up for the 3K off that self-destruct. No supports here for Toronto Defiant. Charge coming up from beyond. But will be able to take down Mendoza. Turns around. He gets a shatter.
Welcome back!
Oh man, welcome back indeed. Might have just single-handedly turned that one around, and he has. It's a dead eye. All right, everybody just backs around the corner. That's going to pave the way. Oh, they can't. Oh, the flashbang. Oh, no, the huge flashbang. That flashbang hit like 3 people. All right, this round is weird. But the Hunters are going to be able to take the point back, and they are 99% already OG.
Show me the standings. Here's a look at our stage 3 right now. Who's in that number 1 spot? It's not the Titans. Currently, it's New York. And who do they play? It looks like they got Dallas in the future. Some pretty winnable games coming up. Do they go 7-0, guys? Do they take the number 1 spot?
I'm done making predictions. The teams in this league, Puckett, would be happy if I stopped making predictions, so I'm just going to stop.
I mean, some of them
do
would
it.
probably be quite happy if they're underdogs, just saying.
That's true.
Now, Monty,
You
the
know,
Outlaws still have 2 more
justice all
games
the
to
way.
go, but they're sitting in 9th. They are currently outside of the playoffs. Do they finish in or out?
The Justice?
The Outlaws.
The Outlaws?
3 and 2.
I think the Outlaws at least have a shot here. The rest of their schedule is pretty easy. I think they're capable of bouncing back and going 5 and 2, at least making the stage playoffs. I do agree with Sideshow that loss is problematic for season playoffs, but I'm not sure it's problematic for stage playoffs.
I think you're letting your Outlaws fan bias affect you too much.
That's me.
You should tone it down a little bit
I
here.
get accused of that all the time.
Yeah, you should really be careful about that.
Things are getting better and better here as Stage 3 goes on, but we have to reflect on Week 3 in particular in our hindsight. Monty, I'd love to start with you, my friend. What is your hindsight from Week 3?
You know, what I think I learned this week is that Overwatch League is a Greek tragedy. And I mentioned Sophocles today, of course, the famous Greek tragedy writer.
Of course.
But when I know, it's a, he wrote Oedipus Rex. You should read it sometime.
Yeah.
I feel like you share a lot in common. But anyway.
That got interesting.
It certainly did.
Bring
anyway,
back Fred.
back
Fred.
back to my point. Quiet down. Pipe down, everybody. So back to the Greek tragedy. You know, there's a force in Greek tragedy called nemesis, and we think about nemesis as a word meaning
bored
sort
already.
of vindication these days, but it's really just a return to equilibrium. If somebody has too much hubris, they tend to fall. San Francisco Shock, Vancouver Titans have now been dealt losses by 2 teams that had 0-7 stages. So I feel like we're slowly returning to equilibrium here, and it's really very tragically Greek.
Excellent. You can catch all of Monty's lectures here at UCLA, moonlighting on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Professor Monty.
Dylan, what's your hindsight, buddy?
My hindsight, I got to say, I think the Boston Magic is still there. They were winless this stage. I thought if there was ever a time that the reverse sweep magic from the Boston Uprising that they've shown us in this season of the Overwatch League would abandon them, it would be today. Paris looked very good, but I was wrong. I was wrong, Boston. And in hindsight, the magic was inside me all along when I predicted to lose, or you to lose. So, again, you're welcome.
The best janitors in the game. What about you, Josh?
You are truly too powerful.
I am.
My hindsight is that the LA Valiant are truly on a major upswing. They have turned their season around under the guidance of Packing 10 and after that trade, and they are looking phenomenal right now. Just dealt the Vancouver Titans first loss in the regular season. Their next 2 opponents are Spark and London, 2 teams that have also struggled with Sombra Goats recently. The Valiant could be in a prime position to start upsetting some major players throughout the league, and we'll see where they go from here.
I like it. Calling it now. Look out for the Valiant to climb those standings. My hindsight for the week is that we're done. We'll catch you next Thursday. Week 4 kicks off right here in the Blizzard Arena. We'll see you fresh, ready to go at 3:30 Pacific. Have a good one.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have one more match for you today. The home team, LA Valiant, going to be going up against the